I am Pepa Moran. I work as a landscape architect and I teach in the Landscape Architecture Master in Barcelona in the Polytechnical University of Catalonia. We work specifically with the students in relation to disturbance and with fire. During 4 years, we have been working on workshops, about 2 months each workshop, trying to understand the dynamics of fire and landscape change, and it's a chance to understand many of the things that happens in relation to fire. We think that fire is an effect of all the changes that are coming from our landscape also, and we try to understand which is the relation between them, between the change of land use, between fire and the response of the agents that are involved in the landscape. And there is something that we think it's interesting also for us to do, that is related to political planning. There are no examples of which is the position of planning related to disturbances, specifically with fire. We find some examples related to floods here in the Mediterranean areas, but with fire we have no examples so clearly. So what we try to do is to make a position of planning and specifically linked with prevention. We think that the representation issue can help us to visualize which is the situation and to take decisions in planning. That is very hard to do with disturbances because they are dynamics that cannot be seen, but this representation of how the landscape is changing, how a fire is getting into a landscape. For this work we have been doing with the student, we have the information from the graph. What is interesting is to link this information and to work together. What I think is what we are hearing all the time here, to create this network of information and people who are working together. So with this information, we try to go beyond and ask how can we propose prevention in this landscape through fragmentation of the forest masses, through the recognition of the different agents in the landscape who could take part of these decisions, through the proposing new ways of integrating, for example, management with tourism, create a new and a hybrid uses that can respond to this new situation we are focusing. That could be our main goal, I think. For us, it's very interesting that this kind of aspect cannot be treated by only planners, only politicians. I mean, that's a really interesting thing, that the more we work together, the better we do it. We work and we get conclusions. So it's much more efficient if we start to work together, specifically in such a complex field like the prevention of fire. We have learned that to do that, we have to do it all together, not alone. Another thing is that very often these things in the administration or in planning, they haven't taken it into account sometimes. One maybe is for the lack of responsibility, but another is because of its difficulty. It is very difficult to planificate and to decide how to deal with these changes. And because of this difficulty, we think we have to improve our tools related to planning and to representation to work with changes. It's a challenge. We were speaking about how the European Risk Facility could be a contribution for the knowledge and for improving the way of working related to fire risk. I think most of the people have said that it's an interesting network for many things. One could be for the data that it could collect. Another could be for the facility of linking networks, different networks in different stratums, a very high level of European community, etc., and then at a local level. I think also that this difficulty of communication should be added like another value for the European risk facility, because it is very new also from our profession, from landscape architecture. There are many people who are starting now to try to represent this kind of changes and this kind of things that are happening now. So I think it will be very useful to try to help in this kind of research and to advance prevention, or to control, well, the uncertainty we have to manage with uncertainty, but through prevention, through communication and representation, we think that it can be easier, or it could be a facility for the risk management.